Hey, everybody. It's me, Janelle, again. Obviously, you're listening to Chatting Human Design, so who else could it be? Um, my guest today is a wonderful 6'2" emotional projector. I feel like I haven't had a projector on in like 3 or 4 episodes, so I'm very excited. They've been all generators, which is
Oh,
nice,
nice.
but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, okay, like that's a lot of energy. So we've got Mel McSherry with us today. Welcome. Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome for having you, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
You're an international business and life guide, author, speaker, all these blablams that I was very excited to read. I love when people put all their stuff because it gives me stuff to tell people, like,
Yeah.
look who's here.
Well, because we're always more than just our titles, right? There's always different facets, even if you're not the particular titles. And I think it's always great when you have more information on somebody.
Yeah, and it's easier now than ever to be all the things, or like put your toe in all of the things and be like, I want to write, and then I want to be over here talking, and I'm going to do this, and you can have 5 titles.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll be quiet.
Yeah. Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a business and life guide and all the other things. I am located in Chicago, Illinois, and I've been an entrepreneur since 2010. So I've been here, done that, got all the t-shirts and all the things. And it's been such an interesting journey because when I started out, it was first in the fitness industry. I was a certified
Mhm.
personal trainer,
Me
did
too.
in-home trainings, outdoor boot camps, all that jazz. And then when my son was born in 2011, my husband at the time, his dad worked in Major League Baseball and he was gone 2 months straight for spring training,
Mhm.
worked every single home game, every other way trip, yada, yada, yada. And our son was born in the middle of the baseball season and sprinkle in some like undiagnosed postpartum depression. And we had ourselves a party that first year. And
Mhm.
I really decided that I wanted to take a step to the side. So that turned into becoming a VA for an IT company. I did medical
Mhm.
billing for my dad's company. I got back into fitness through a network marketing company. And through that, really kind of found my footing on how I love to guide people. And you and I were talking in the green room
Mhm.
about, the title guide. And I really do prefer that because that's what I love to do. I
Mhm.
don't like telling people what to do and how to do it. I tried that in my early years of quote unquote coaching
Mhm.
and it never sat right. And then, you know, in an alignment with this conversation, then I found my human design and I went, well, duh, like that's that's
Yeah.
why. And so with utilizing that information, my business has evolved. I have definitely evolved and it's been quite the process, but one that has, as they always do, teach me what I needed to know
Mhm.
in the moment that I needed to know it. And it's just been a beautiful expanding journey ever since.
Yeah, guide is to me coaching, and this is just a personal thing. People coach can mean anything you want it to mean, but to me,
Absolutely.
when I think about it, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it that I don't want. Like to me,
Mm,
coaching requires a little bit more structure and
yeah.
like here's your syllabus and here that you're going to do this today and this and this, and I don't make stuff like that. I don't want to. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound fun. And one of my someone who's really helping me with business lately has told me that I'm here to have fun. Like you should just have fun. And
And I love that you found support like that because the support that I originally found before I knew my human design, I kind of knew the vernacular of how to explain, or at least to myself or to others, my how.
mhm.
I was a very copy and paste. I have an open G center. So my identity was like,
Mhm.
tell me. And I would absorb it, I would regurgitate it, and I on paper would be and looked very successful. But there was always this undertow of this, like, ickiness, especially when they told me to create a framework, which I, spouted out and did religiously, and every time I was like, "Yeah, I have that," and,
I don't
like
want to do
yeah, it was
it.
just more of like, "It's here," but, 9 times out of 10, I was just holding space, and I was
Mhm.
just naturally being a projector and guiding and not necessarily sticking to routine, and every time I would get kind of penalized or judged by not being quote unquote consistent,
Mm,
it would crush me. And it was this a
mm,
lot of back and forth until human design found me the second time. The first time I was like, cool. But the second time I literally cried when I read my entire report. I was just like, see, I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy. And it just 180'd my entire outlook, my entire process, quote unquote, inside and outside of my business.
mhm. I love that you mentioned the G center because that's where my cross is. I'm a Sphinx cross, but
Ah.
I have an undefined G. So it's very
Oh.
odd. It's actually where I have the most defined gates is in my undefined G center, which is like, come on. They're like, here, you're supposed to guide. We give you all these little gate flavors, but you're undefined, so it's inconsistent. Like, play with that. And
Right.
so that's something that I've been really trying to like experiment for my with myself and
Yeah.
kind of see how it's going to go or not go because it's inconsistent. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it feels, and I've said this before, it feels very guide from the side. Like I'm
Mm.
doing the same things you're doing. I'm tripping over the same hurdles. Hello, 3-6. I'm having the same issues. We're doing the same thing, but I'm
Yeah.
here next to you going, hey, we're doing it. And I tried it this way and it didn't work. So maybe you try it this way if you want.
Yeah.
Third line wisdom. But otherwise, I'm just here. Like we're doing it together. And that totally let me off the hook of thinking that I needed to be some sort of like human design
Yeah.
guru that was way up here and like living my design perfectly and wool, because that's not possible, first of all.
I
And
was gonna say, which
secondly,
nobody is doing ever, and anybody who
yeah,
says they are is full of shit.
yeah, and projectors are here for the conditioning. So
Yeah.
you're gonna see me as a conditioned human because that's what I'm here to share. So
Yep.
it has become a process of like unlearning a lot of stuff
Oh,
about
absolutely.
what
Same,
I need
same.
to be to help people and to be a guide. And I'm still kind of unraveling and working with how that looks as a business. And then
Yeah.
you came to me and a bunch of other people came to me. I was telling her this before we came on. I asked the universe for help in business, but I didn't want to pay anybody, which is a jerk move because these people deserve to be paid. So the universe said, well, hey, we'll have someone come on your podcast. So they're also benefiting, mutual benefiting. Cool. We'll have someone who's building a business ask you to be their guinea pig, mutual, we're benefiting. Like that was where I was okay with it because
Yeah.
everybody's benefiting and it's not like gimme,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I can't really do that. And the universe said, we're not asking you to do that. We're just going
Exactly.
to send some people who'd like to meet you. So here you go. And I was like, okay. And if you have ever listened to me on the podcast before, you know that me and the universe don't really mesh all the time because I'm get closed-minded about that kind of stuff. And I will
Mhm.
totally admit it. My divine ajna says, that's not logical. That doesn't make sense. I can't make sense of that. So
Mhm.
get it out of here. And human design says, wait a second. What if just thinking something or just putting something out in the universe changed things for you, change
Yeah.
things? You didn't do anything that is going to hurt you or that affects you
Right.
negatively. You just said something out loud, which is the scary part for me. Like when I said out
Mm.
loud, I wanted help, but I didn't want to pay for it. I also said this beginning of this week, I do not pick up Thursdays at the restaurant I work at anymore, which is terrifying for me to even think because I barely make do with the 3 days a week that I work. So
Mhm.
Thursdays have been a regular pickup for me to help me out, but I hate it. I hate working there anyway, but picking
Mhm.
up a shift is like extra. Ooh, it makes my stomach
Yeah.
drop and my heart race. And I'm just like, I don't want to do it. But I feel the responsibility that
Yeah.
I must so that I can make money and live in this
Yeah.
society. So I put it
Yeah. Yeah.
out at the beginning of this week. I don't pick up Thursdays anymore. I said it out loud, and saying it out loud right now is freaking me out because the universe is going to be like,
Bravo.
smite you. We're taking all your money. You have to pick up Thursdays. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
I had a great financial week last week, the 3 days that I work.
Oh.
It was actually very, very good. And I was like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Then we're all right. So we're seeing how it goes. But
That's,
trust,
I I mean, it's a
Trust in the
whole
universe is rough,
yeah.
man.
It's a whole different level of trust because it's not a trust that we're taught. We are taught that, especially as entrepreneurs, but humans in general, like we are taught that it is, the financial is not the main reason, but the measurable, right, of how quote unquote successful you are. And
Safety.
yeah, it's easy to get sucked into a scarcity mindset and all of this. I mean, I am open AF. I only have my solar plexus and my root defined. So and I'm
Ajna
emotional,
throat.
yeah,
That's
and also emotional authority. So it is that different level of trust that I think not can only, but you can deepen that trust when you do put it into practice because you look
Mhm.
at it. And then what that does, and that's one of the things that I love to help my clients with as well, with them knowing their human design as entrepreneurs, is that it flips that hierarchy of needs. When I talk about profitability, I'm always talking about it from a 3 point space, which is
Mhm.
mental, emotional, and then financial. And when
Mhm.
you flip the hierarchy needs from financial first, which means you can relax and be emotionally and mentally happy, to the other parts, right? Because then you can
Ah.
really lean into your self points like satisfaction, success, so on and so forth. When you make those mental and emotional profitability points the instigators, the main focuses, then it really is crazy how it feels easier. I'm not saying it's necessarily easier, but it feels easier.
Yeah, it's still
With that
scary.
that it is for that financial to flow through, and when it does, it just also feels more profitable because you're already enjoying, for the most part, again, we are human, where you're at and how you received it. So it really
Mhm.
is that next level of profitability.
Mhm. And I really tried to enjoy Thursday this week. I was like, okay.
Beautiful.
And there was parts of the day where I was like, where would you be right now if you had to work today? Like, what would be your mindset? What would you be doing? And I was like, ugh, blah, ugh.
Yeah.
Um, and they randomly showed up to fix our dishwasher, like without any sort of, they just showed up. And I'm not great with like people just showing up. I'm
Me
a
either.
caves environment is like, hey, I
Yeah,
didn't tell you to come. I didn't know you're here. I'm gonna be in my cave, but now you're here. And
right.
it was actually a lot easier for me to handle because I wasn't getting ready for work or thinking about work or I didn't
Mm,
have to go anywhere, which is a
yeah,
little basic thing, but when you think about it, when you're getting ready to go do something you don't want to do, it kind of dampers the whole day.
absolutely.
Like you try not
Absolutely.
to let it, but you don't really have a choice. And so they fixed our dishwasher and I was like, okay, people are here, but once they're gone, I don't have to go to work.
Yeah, once they're gone, you can go clear your space and go do your thing and get you back kind of in
Yeah.
that
And I
energetic
still get a
track.
little voice that's like, well, how much money would you have made if you had gone to work? Wouldn't that have been helpful? You're so irresponsible. Like
Yeah.
responsibility is like a bad word for me almost
Mm,
because I get it like ingrained that these are the things that you need to be a responsible human being. And if you
yeah.
don't actively pursue these things at all times, then you are an irresponsible human being. And that is not good. Where do I get this shit? I don't know. Gate 50, maybe. Values, personal responsibility.
But it's also,
Um,
I mean, it's in the actual text, it's in the subliminal text of everything that we are taught,
mhm,
that we see. I mean, it's almost at a cellular level now for most of us of just this like story in our head of what is success. I know
mhm.
for me, it was I need to be this independent person who doesn't need support from anybody. And that was literally from day one. My mom tells stories all the time of how I was like like not actual middle fingering my family, but you know, through
I got
actions, be like,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess my favorite saying was ling along me, like leave me alone.
Oh my God, how cute.
And so even to this day, I'm 42 years old and I will get like a streak and my mom will just go ling along me. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know, I get it.
That's so
And
funny.
even letting that go and, shifting that now that I have a very supportive partner who is very 50-50, and, those bits and bobs that my nervous system was finding like, "Hey, role model, remember this whole you're a late bloomer thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
enjoy with a hermit. Come on now." And it still has been and continues to be. those voices I feel hardly ever go away. They get quieter.
Yeah.
But again, as an emotional authority, that's when they're just like, "Ooh, you're stressed, you're freaked out. Hello." And like,
Here
let's
we
have a
are.
party in your brain.
Yeah. And but the awareness is every time you are aware of it and and you feel and you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what's happening. You don't stop it. You
Yeah.
just are aware. That's huge. And it's huge for your body
Oh
and
God,
your
yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell people because a lot of times, especially projectors, are like, how do I make this stop? Or how do I stop this from
Mm,
happening? Like up here in my brain.
mhm.
And I'm like, that's not a possibility. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like your brain's gonna do what it wants to do. You have no control over it. It just is
Yep.
gonna say stuff to you and you're gonna
That's
feel
why it's
shit.
not an authority
Yeah.
for the
And
most part.
the goal is not to stop it before it starts. The goal is to be aware of it as it's happening.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be like, oh my God, I'm aware of this. Stop it, because you're not going to be able to do that
Yep.
either. You
Yep.
just are aware and watching it and going, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
this is what I do when this thing happens. And this is immediately what I think. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then it goes down and you're like, okay, well, now where am I? So
Yeah.
it's
I
about
love that.
realizing that your unconscious reactions and the
Yeah.
conditioning that you have in this world are never going to go away. And they're
Mhm.
almost always going to be the first, like, pop that
Yep.
pops up. And
Yeah.
immediately when that happens, most people are like, oh, well, I lost. I just did this wrong
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
stop that. But
Yeah.
you'll never stop it. It's feelings are unconscious. You know that
Mhm.
emotions, they just, and there's nothing
Yep.
you can do. So just seeing them is really giving a lot of love to yourself. So
Absolutely. I
that's
love that you
how
say
I
that
feel
because
about
I
that.
say that too when, people schedule readings with me. It's like this 90 minutes is all about validation, confirmation, and awareness. Because I mirror the exact same saying of like awareness is the first step. That's why it's the first step of every 12 program. It's like be aware that you have a problem. Like, okay, cool. And not say that these emotions are a problem, but it is that awareness of instead of, and then from there, at least for again, for me as an emotional authority, it's like, okay, then I now know. And to your point, it's those steps. It's like you have that operations manual of the most profitable way that you have to move through whatever this is and to know where to move it to or how to move it out. And
Mhm.
it is those little things that do make such a big difference that we glaze over because we want to have that big solution. We want to have that magic pill,
Mhm.
we want to have that one guru that just fixes everything. And the thing is nobody can fix anything for you. You have to recognize it in yourself and then see what resources you already have. So when the support comes forward, you know which ones are actually there to either complete or expand what you already know to be true. And it lessens so much of that confliction that a lot of people feel when they're
Mhm.
working with a quote unquote coach that like, oh, they told me to do this, but I don't know how to tell them. You get the one liners of push outside your comfort zone or blah, 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 blah. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, but
It's hard for
there's,
projectors too, because a lot of it is not energetically focused on
oh,
us, and it doesn't allow for
yeah,
the inconsistency of
absolutely.
I'm not going to have it that day, so I'm just not going to be able to post or work out or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and I'm going to be okay with that. And people are
Yeah.
like, push through.
Yeah.
And there's projectors can do that to a certain extent in little bips
Little
and bops
spurts.
and bursts. I
Yep.
think if we prepare and we're like, okay, I'm gonna do this much, or I'm gonna attempt to record this, or I'm gonna attempt to do this thing. But once we do it, it's not like, okay, every Tuesday now I'm gonna be able to do
Yeah.
that.
No.
See, I have unlocked that little portal and now I will always have energy. Tuesday at 2 p.m. to record. Like we
Yep.
don't, projectors don't have like that analytic thing or the algorithm in our
No.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And for so long, I don't know about you, but for so long, I forced myself
Oh yeah, for
and I
sure.
didn't really know that it was, burning my ass literally until all of a sudden nothing felt good and my entire hermit self was just I mean literally just took over my entire system was like we
Mhm.
are hiding like in a good way and we are resting and we're doing all these things because that did give me that space to be like okay where am I still going too far because it's just routine because
Mhm.
I was just told it could it was successful to a point in the past. And so my natural reaction is to go back to those
Oh
processes.
yeah, for sure.
And it never works out. And then I get mad at myself. So it is that interesting, it's that interesting cycle that you teach yourself slowly but surely to reverse.
Mhm.
And it was funny, I was thinking about this morning. I was walking home from taking my kiddo to school, and I was like, "You know what? It is so nice, and I'm so grateful that I no longer feel like I have to push a formula or feel like, because this is how I felt like a lot of the times when I'd step into client sessions back in the day was, I need to know the answer, and we need to
Mhm.
be I can only go so far because my mentor was very big on, it's not personal, it's business. You have your formula, you copy and paste, and, you are the expert. And that just I just psych myself up every single time. And the fact
Mhm.
that now I step into my sessions with my clients, just stepping in, going, okay, I'm a guide. I am here for you. I
Yeah.
have my tools. I have your charts. I have you. Let's go. Like,
Here we
let's see
go.
where this
Yeah.
session takes us. And it's so fucking epic. Like, it's just so, and
Yeah.
after, 12 years of being an entrepreneur, the fact that I had this renewed just connection and excitement to something that I have been passionate about for a long time is just it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah. 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 And it can be a challenge to get there. And speaking
Absolutely.
of challenge, guys, I'm on a 7-day challenge, day 3. Actually, today's 4. I just haven't had my magic mind yet today. These little shots, magic mind. It's a mental performance shot. I have it in the afternoon because I love coffee. I have gate 5, and it's a very ritualistic thing for me to have coffee in the morning. It's my jammy jam. So I don't want anything that's going to replace my coffee, which a lot of the other energy shots are like, this is your replacement now. You do this now. No, Magic Mind says, hey, where can this fit in your day and how can it help you? And for me, it's the afternoon because I've tried to have 2 coffees in a day, and the second one, I'm just like, whoa, okay, that's a lot of caffeine. And it just over caffeinates me, overstimulates me. But I need something at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon because I'm like, ugh, help me. Magic Mind to the rescue. This stuff has been really helpful over the past 3 days. It gives me like clean energy. I feel more focused. I actually have a better memory, which is awesome for me because sometimes I forget my own name. Just kidding. I'm Janelle. So I love these things. They're convenient. You can take them on the go. There's a limited time offer you can use now that gets you up to 48% off of your first subscription or 20% off of one-time purchase with code HumanDesign20. That's just a fun one. Go to www.magicmind.com/ this way, human design, and use the code HumanDesign20 at checkout. This stuff is packed with mushroom nootropics, adaptogens, 100% plus vitamin C and D, just enough matcha to kind of give you energy, but not make you all jacked up. They've been doing this for 5 years, 106 formulations. So they've got it right now. It tastes fresh. It tastes fruity. Again, get 48% off of your first subscription or 20% off of a one-time purchase with code HumanDesign20 at magicmind.com/human design. Come do the 7-day challenge with me. Pow. Okay.
I'm gonna check that out.
Thank you. I mean, hey, it's fun and this stuff's good. So,
Anything to help with my minds, I'm
right.
in like Flynn because perimenopause, that's a whole nother conversation we can have,
Yeah.
but
And we're both
memory.
open. We're both open crown. I've
Crown,
defined
yep.
ajna, but we're both open crown. So a lot of stuff gets in here. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm open
hard.
crown, open
It's nice to
ajna, so
focus.
yeah. Yep.
Nice to get some focus. Okay, I wanted to circle back because something you said really interested me about how you
Yeah,
found human design twice,
twice.
and I want to know what happened.
Yeah. So the first time it found me was in 2017. I was a part of a 6-month meditation mastermind.
Hmm.
And the facilitator, Elise, who I love to pieces, um, brought it up just almost like as a side tool of just like, here's some different, other ways that you can learn about yourself.
Hmm.
And all I did was just research enough to where I knew my type as a projector. And I was like, cool, I like this. That makes sense. Yep, that's definitely me. It's kind of like when you first read your, astrological signs, like, yeah, no, that's definitely me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I never didn't feel pulled to really dive
Yeah.
any deeper. And then fast forward to 2020, the same facilitator was hosting a spiritual retreat in Sedona, Arizona. I went, this actually happened to be 2 weeks before lockdown here in Chicago, and we were in lockdown
Mhm.
for a year and a half. So we were in it. Um, and one of the participants brought it back up because she was a facilitator. And
Mhm.
so then gave me all of the info, and I cried like a baby
Mhm.
because it really was, again, I know I mentioned this earlier, this just like, fuck, I knew it. But now I have the vernacular. Now I really know that this
Yeah.
is what I'm doing. And that whole retreat, I was receiving really huge nudges from the universe of letting go of my traditional mentor who I had invested a ton of time and money and did get some success with for sure. Release that and really
Mhm.
focus on me, because I had, as an open G center, never really done that. I have
Mhm.
just bobbed along and evolved and changed and yada, yada, yada. And so that's when I started really studying it, really inserting it into my personal life in 2020, because I didn't really have the time. I was virtual learning my son, who is autistic, and trying to run a business in a year and a
Mhm.
half. But it gave me, again, that kind of deeper information of how to move through it as well as possible.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, I started really implementing it in my business. And it's always funny, I love the fact that human design is such a slow burn. Like, it's, even the creator says it takes a minimum of 7 years for you to fully integrate it.
Mhm.
And I love that because it didn't come with any sort of pressure or premise that you needed to go step by step, right? You need to figure it
Yeah.
all out, implement it all, and yada, 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 because that's impossible. If anybody's looked at a human design chart,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just information. I call it the ultimate onion of personal development because it's just layer after layer after layer.
Mhm.
And so I was honoring certain pieces of it, like shifting my office hours, shifting how I did calls, how often I did calls,
Yeah,
being
me
a hermit
too.
and a projector. That was massive in itself. And then I hit, it's funny. I don't like the word burnout because I feel, one, it's overused, and two, I have a different connotation when I hear burnout because of other people's stories that I've heard.
Uh-huh.
But to lack of a better term, I experienced my own burnout starting in October of 2022. I literally put my business on autopilot until the beginning of this year so I could really focus on my mental and emotional health.
Mhm.
And that pause, or that hermiting inside of my business, really showed me how anchoring the information in human design can be.
Mhm.
And just the ways that the clients that came forward, even though I was hiding, because the more that you rest, the more that you're seen.
Mhm.
The people that just came forward that wanted to work with me, and the conversations that we had that helped me, look at pieces of my design and go deeper in those pieces because they wanted to have that information as well. I mean, I know I definitely could have gotten through last year with the help of my therapist and my partner and the support that I had. And I know for sure the way that my business has just blossomed this year,
Mhm.
I know would not have happened if I hadn't had really delved deeper into those next steps in human design.
Yeah. That's totally cool. I love that. So what did you do something in particular? Like did you or are you self-taught? Did you take a what did you do?
So I'm self-taught.
Me too.
And for me, and I'm always open and honest about that with my clients of like,
Me
look,
too.
I don't delve into anything I haven't tried on myself first or experimented with, even though, I mean, yes, there's experimental gates in my chart, but I like to be rooted in it a little bit before I go there with my clients. So
Mhm.
the areas that I go through, honestly, are the areas that I have been practicing, I guess permanently practicing for the last 4 years.
Mhm.
And it's kind of nice because I always say your clients are always 5 steps behind you anyway. So the fact that human design, one, is such a slow burn, and we can take luscious time if they have the capacity and the, if they want to, honestly. Um, then it's not a pressure to me that I have to keep studying.
Yeah.
I can honor my pace at which I study and I implement and I understand,
Mhm.
because the people that are coming to me are people who either never heard of human design, or they had a reading, it was overwhelming AF and they don't know what the hell to do with it,
Mhm.
or they've heard of human design and they kind of want to try it out for themselves. So the fact that I work with, you know, somewhat established entrepreneurs who are newbies to human
Mhm.
design, that also continues to strengthen my knowledge and my connection to those kind of quote unquote basics that I go through and
Mhm.
work with. That has been really beautiful. And then again, that eases the pressure for me and all my openness to
Yeah.
explore those next levels of the design chart when I feel called to.
Yeah. I love that too, because like you said, a lot of times people come to human design, or for me, I get a lot of people who don't care so much about the terms, or they don't want to learn human design. They don't want
Yeah.
me to teach them the centers and the gates, and that's what I when I first came to doing this, and being a guide, that's what I thought I needed to provide, was not only people's personal human design information, but general human design information about the whole system. My readings were like 2.5 hours. It was just
Mhm.
so, it was my undefined heart being like, how much can you give them? They
Right.
gave you money. Make sure you give them everything.
Yeah.
Um, and I've really kind of tailored it and been like, hey, you can trust yourself to give the information the way that you give the information. You
Hmm.
are not a human design teacher. They didn't come to you to learn what human design is. They don't care. And that's what I had to remind myself. Like, they don't care. They want to know
Yeah.
about themselves. They want to
Yeah.
know what they can do to feel less like they're just part of this cog in the system. Like, how can they be
Yeah.
themselves? They don't
Yeah.
care that it's the ajna center and the crown, and like, so when I read, a lot of times I don't really, I have their chart and I say, if you want me to share this with you, I can show it to you, but you don't need to see it and you don't
Yeah.
need to care what it looks like. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of people get hung up when they see the chart or when they hear about design. They're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I have to know what this is. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's, I
No.
know what it is.
Yeah.
You just listen. I'm going to talk to you like a human, and I
Yeah.
try to keep my jargon, my human design jargon, to a minimum. You can't help it, sometimes there's stuff you have to say to make it make
Absolutely.
sense,
Yeah.
but that way it's like, hey, we're just chatting about you and I'm looking at this thing, but you don't need
Yeah.
to worry about it. And that
Yeah.
has left taken, like you said, taken a lot of pressure off, taken a lot of pressure off me to be like, hey, you're not here to teach the entire human design system to every person that you read for. They don't want to know.
Yeah. And
So,
that's what I love about talking to other human design facilitators, that we all have different connections and ways that we do it, right?
mhm,
And it's so cool to be like, when people schedule their, their complimentary virtual coffees with me, and either I don't feel like I'm the right facilitator for them or vice versa, or
mhm,
there's like a hesitancy. I love that I can be like, I know other facilitators that, it's this, you're going to get the quote unquote same information, but it might just be a different energy, a different way that they
mhm,
communicate. And I think that's so important for people to know, is that it's okay in my mind to shop around, talk to different facilitators, see how you feel, and really
mhm.
make sure that it's, the aftercare that you're looking for, if any, the information is, presented in a way that's digestible to you. And it's okay
Mhm.
if you're like, okay, I know I'm still looking, like, for you, for example, like, I know I'm looking for help in my business. Here's these three people. I'm gonna see
Flew
what
out
I
of
can, yeah,
nowhere.
exactly. Like, I'm gonna shop around and I'm gonna see what resonates with what. And if I feel pulled or called to work with one, if any, then that's that due diligence that, again, I don't think as humans we give ourselves enough time for, because we are
Mhm.
taught to follow your intuition. If it's here, it's for you. And as an emotional authority, that's another thing I had to kind of retrain my brain, is even though it's a full body hell yes, I still need to take a moment and think about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, that means absolute not nothing, but that's not it's not a right now instigator for me. And
Mhm.
that shifted a lot of the ways that I have made decisions in my life and in my business, and has made, again, the spaces that I have said yes to so much more profitable, because
Yeah.
I wasn't framing it as, oh, the universe provided, I have to accept or else it's going to go away. to, okay, it's presenting me with this. It's a not right now, but if I do go back to space, I know offers like this are available. And it's not
Exactly.
wasting their
It's a
energy.
great
It's you
reframe.
just getting more information.
I love that too, because this reminds me of the phrase, what is for you will find you, which I think makes sense and I understand it and it's all good. But sometimes as a projector, I think people get confused with the invitation because
Yeah.
as a projector, you don't really get as many invitations as, say, maybe generators get to things to respond to. So
Yeah.
you can get stressed out. So when an
Yeah.
invitation
Oh God,
comes to
yeah.
you, you're like, yeah, yeah, this is
Yes.
it. This is the invitation that they're talking about. Somebody asked me to do something, or somebody contacted me for a coffee date, which means I have to work with them. And to be
Right.
able to say as a projector, you know what? I think your money would be better served going over here. Like that's so much wonderful trust in yourself. And that's huge to be like, you know what? I don't think we're energetically compatible. So I'm going
Yeah.
to not accept this invitation. And you want to give me money, and I'm going to tell you no, thank you, because this is energetically not going to work out. And that's
Yeah.
so cool that you do that, especially for the other person, because they might not know. They're like,
I
here,
mean,
take my
why would,
money.
and to be fair, was I always like that? Absolutely not. And there
No,
was,
because
and it's funny
conditioning
again.
says don't do that.
Yeah, right. And there was actually a month in my business where the universe was giving me like the mother of all face palms because I had 3 clients fire me,
Oh,
like middle of a contract, fire me. And I was emotionally glad because again, I was amping myself up and trying to be like this person.
You're like, thank God.
But then there's, yeah, I was like, okay, cool. But then, you look at the bank account, like, that's like 5K a month. That's gone. And so it's one of those things of like, again, you're going to, the universe is going to redirect you.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's very loving and gentle and, oh yeah, duh. Other times it's like, what in the actual fuck? And
Exactly.
you you have you have the information and you have it's that big permission slip of just like for yourself of like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. I see. Yep, I did it again. Go
Mhm.
me. And let's try this all again differently.
Yeah. And no matter what authority you are, I mean, splenic projectors, you get a little bit of a pass to be kind of fast, but I think it takes some time to feel into the splenic voice. So
Yeah.
maybe you're gonna, I feel like the splenic authority people might have a little bit more of like major like, oh, I picked the wrong thing, because they're told to act quickly and their
Yeah.
energy says act quickly, but the spleen is quiet. So you got to practice, and then you're like, oh, that's the spleen talking. I was listening to this thing up here, it's actually here.
Right.
Oh, my undefined emotional center is talking now, like, because these people are around and messing with me over here. So you'll always need time. Splenic projectors, you get a little bit of a pass, you get a little okay. But the invitations are not, yes, I take them all. It's your authority goes, hey, do I really want to do this stuff? And a lot of times, and
Yeah.
I've said this to a lot of different people when they're like, how do I use my authority? Like, I don't understand this. I will say this for my own authority and for a lot of people who have experimented. A lot of times, you know the answer right away. Maybe it's something that's presented to you that you already know you really want to do. For instance, this
Hmm.
podcast. I love making podcasts. I love people ask to be on. If they're into human design, I love it. I want to talk. It's an easy yes.
Hmm.
But this is what I do. I say yes in my mind. Okay, it's a yes. And then I allow myself to do the little process of, oh, I would soundboard about this with my husband, or I'm going to go for a walk and think about this. And really what I'm thinking about is, what day and time would be fun to do this? Like,
Hmm.
when should I do this? When am I going to read her one sheet? Like, I plan it all out, but I already know it's a yes. But
Yeah.
then I have like this control of like, hey, I say yes to this, but these are the dates and times that I can do it. So you're
Yeah.
giving yourself parameters so that you don't
Yeah.
overextend. You can
Hmm.
just say, I'm saying yes to this, but it can only be this day at this time. I only have the X amount of time. This is a big one for projectors. Put a
Yeah.
boundary around the amount of time you have to do the thing.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, sure, I'll go with you to this event, and it's like a 5-hour event, and you don't want to be there for 5 hours,
Yeah.
Say, I will go with you for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Bam. And then you've already done it. And you said yes, but you have your boundary. So I think a lot of times the authority is like the boundary maker of your answer.
Yeah. I full on agree because it does give you it, it gives you those parameters and it shows you what that actually feels like, looks like, does because we are taught like again, trust your intuition, manifest, manifest, manifest. It's go, you gotta jump and figure it out later. It's like, yeah, yes, and when you know what really that looks like and feels like for you, then you can take those kind of one-liners and go, okay, I hear you. And
I hear
um
you, but
like one of my favorite quotes by a previous mentor of mine, John Maxwell, was in order to say yes to the best, you have to say no to the good.
Mhm.
And that as a projector is like, well, yeah, like when I am invited, it could be a good invitation, but is
Mhm.
it the best? And as then I know as an emotional authority, how can I sit with it to gain more clarity? It's not going to be crystal clear, and I know that,
Mhm.
but it'll add more clarity to really understanding, is this the right space for me to ask questions, for me to research, or even just to sit with it and see if it still feels as exciting as it did 2, 4, 12, 24 hours ago.
Mhm.
And again, we don't, no matter what authority you are, to your point, even the splenic, my son's a splenic manifester. That's fun.
Ooh,
Uh,
fast. But inconsistent energy.
right. Yeah. Yeah, he's a whirly dervish sometimes. Um, but no matter what your authority is, it is that pace. And that's another reason why I love human design is that it shows you your pace on how you can be sustainable in this up and down, in and out
Mhm.
fuckery of a life sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's comforting. It's that again, that anchor point that feels really important to say again. It's like that anchoring in of like, it's not necessarily rooting because for some who have an open root, that's not really gonna settle, but
Ooh, I
just
like that.
anchoring in or centering in wherever you are, defined in. That's what's going to just give you that permission to go, you
Mhm.
know what? I hear you. Spleen, I hear you. Sacral, all the things. And what then are my
Mhm.
next steps or my parameters to continue
Yeah.
to process to make sure that I'm receiving what is meant for me and
Mhm.
not for everybody else.
Mhm. Using your authority doesn't mean you're going to change your mind all the time. It might, just like I said, you might not know the answer all along, and that doesn't mean you
Right.
did it wrong.
No.
It just means that it was an easy for me. Usually it's very easy yeses because I get excited about something, and then I have to make sure, do I have the energy to do that
The
thing? Since
follow
I've been
through.
doing
Yeah.
this podcast for years, I'm already like, well, I know I have the energy to do that thing as long as I schedule it in a place where I have a lot of wiggly room, which
Yeah.
is today. Um,
Yeah.
and I do it at a time where I have plenty of time in the morning to do my yoga and my meditation and my chanting and my breakfast. Like I have a very long morning routine, so I don't
I
plan
love it.
anything in the morning. I have
Mine is
certain
too. I wake up at
times.
5 and it's from 5 to like 6:30 in the morning when I wake up the boys. Like
Mine's like 3 hours. I don't
I
have kids
love that.
though. Sorry, but I don't have kids. I think that's why I can do it.
Never apologize for that. And
Good.
beautiful. I'm glad that you do.
I'm glad that you have kids because one, right?
What? Yeah.
I'm glad that you have a kid because you want one, but I don't want one. But I'm glad for the people
Beautiful.
that want them. Good for you. I like
And
that.
I love the people who don't because I mean, I hear you.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's very. It would be. I don't think I've ever known a person who's had a kid and like actively complain. I've heard people complain about their kid, but not like all the time. That would be very
Yeah.
annoying to have a kid and be like, I don't
Yeah.
want this.
No, I would definitely encourage you to speak to somebody about your options. Because yes, there are definite moments. I
What?
even tell my son this. I'm just like, look, I love you every day, but there are some days I don't like you. Like
Oh God, my dogs
that's
puke on the carpet or have diarrhea. I'm like, oh, I love
yeah.
you, but right now, come,
Yeah,
can you just go over there? Like,
right.
and I have an older dog now, so
Mm.
she's having a hard time with her bowels,
Oh,
and
baby.
yeah, I mean, we've dealt with this before, so Sean and I have got. I think this has helped us gain a lot of compassion,
Mm.
because we had a previous dog that made it to 15, and he passed, and it was very difficult, but he had like doggy dementia in the last 6 months and neurological issues. So like he didn't, you could tell looking in his face that he couldn't see who you were. And he had a
Yeah.
lot of trouble with his bowels. And at first I was like freaking out every time. I'm like, we got to put towels places. We have to do this. And then at one point I was like, dog, do your thing. I'll clean up after you. Just, it's cool. Do your thing.
Yeah.
I love you. And that's how it's been with this one now. When stuff is
Mm.
happening, we're getting sad because she's getting older. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? If you need to shit on the carpet, go for it. If you need
Yep.
to puke, there it is.
Yep.
I don't, I love you.
Yeah.
And I never really, because dogs are a responsibility, oh, capital R. So I was
Yeah, they are.
never a dog. Like I didn't have a dog until my parents had dogs, until I met Sean, and Sean had my husband. He had a dog, and we met this dog
Mhm.
I'm talking about. Um, and I was like, oh my God, responsibility. And when we first started dating seriously and I was staying at his place regularly, I was like, you get up with this dog every morning. You have, no matter what, you have to do this thing, no matter what. He's like,
Yeah.
yes. He's like multiple times a day. I was like, this is weird. And then I started to really enjoy it because it got me outside, and
Yeah.
it's like you're taking care of this thing. And I don't know. I think a part of my responsibility thing is I have a hard time trusting, and like taking on this responsibility was like love and trust and like all the gooey heart parts. And I didn't want to
Mhm.
do it because I knew it would be taken away. And that was,
Mm.
I was like, no, I can't do that. But when
Yeah.
I met Sean and he had the dog, I was like, well, I'm going to do that. It's surprising to me to say this now, 10 years later, but his dog was one of the big things where I was like, am I in this or am I not in this? Like, am I
Mm.
in or am
I
I
mean, that's
out?
fair.
Was his
'Cause
little doggy.
it is, responsibility in general is, especially when it's a responsibility that you originally chose not to have because you didn't want to have it, right? And then have it come along with
Mhm.
somebody or something that you love.
Yeah.
That is a conversation you need to have with yourself and
If
with
he
that
had a
person or
kid,
that
it would have
situation.
been a definite no. I would
Yeah.
not. I don't date people with kids. I'll date you. I dated people with dogs,
Yeah.
but I would not date people with kids because I knew that was too much responsibility for me.
Yeah.
The dog one, I wasn't sure. And then as soon as it happened, I was like, oh shit. Like I have to do stuff. We buy food for this dog. Like what happens? He
Right?
gets sick. Vets are
Yeah.
expensive. Damn. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it really helped me to be a more loving human to other human
Mm.
beings. Like
Mm.
it really helped me to be more accepting of other people's stuff, and
Mhm.
like realize that, hey, we all deserve love and kindness because of this
Absolutely.
dog. Like that's how it
Yep.
happened for me. And it actually helped me have a better relationship with my husband because I've always been a very independent person like you. I didn't
Yeah.
really have relationships until, I mean, I had little shorty ones until I met him. Like I was always like, nah, I'm me. I do me. Like I
Yeah.
never thought I would get married. I was like, I'm independent. No one mess with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I was still like that with him a little bit when we met. And Laker, his dog, really taught me to like, oh, if you just show this guy that you really, really love him and you're super obsessed with him,
Mm.
he actually will like that. And so,
Mhm.
and so now I tell him all the time how obsessed with him I am, and I'm crazy about him. We've been together for 10 years,
I love
and
that.
it's so weird because I always, like I said, I meet, whenever I meet people, I'm like, you're not as cool as my husband. Like I've never met someone who is like even close. So it's
Yeah.
very confusing. I'm like, where did you come from? Because every other human being I've met, I'm like, I like you, but I could
Yeah.
not spend as much time as I do
Yeah.
with my husband and enjoy it. It's like,
Yeah. I love when you learn those things. So in my for my personal story, my ex-husband and I are great friends. In fact, his
mhm.
partner is one of my close girlfriends. Like we are
Oh, that's
this
cool.
modern family. Love it, love
That
it.
helps with the kid. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons why we worked so well when we were married, and it was a very amicable divorce, was that we were two very independent people who just happened to be married. Because his
Mhm.
job took him away a lot. And so
Yeah.
therefore I got to be just me. And then when
Yeah.
he was home, we'd make it important, but then it was like 1 or 2 days and then he was gone again. And it worked really well until it didn't.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of personal growth on my end where it was just like, yeah, this is a great friendship,
Mhm.
but I don't know if this needs to be a marriage. And then when I
Yeah.
met my now partner, we've been together 5 years. The just the differences in all the things, but the fact that he makes me giggle every
Mhm.
day, and,
Mhm.
like, he has a typical 9 to 5 job. He's gone longer than that because his commute is ridiculous, but
Yeah.
every night he comes home, I can't not smile when he
Yeah.
walks in the door, and it's not that I didn't really do that with my ex-husband, but it's a different it's coming from a different
Mhm.
place,
Mhm. And when
and
you're an
it's
inconsistent energy and you get like this shot of consistency, it's like, ooh, this is
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and I think that's really why my nervous system in 2022 was like, "Hey, remember all those things you didn't deal with? Ta-da! You
Yeah.
have this safety net of, of not only of support from a partner, but also a financial support because I wasn't doing it on my own anymore,
Yeah, that's
to
really helpful.
and to where I could just, I could take stock in that privilege because it's definitely a privilege to say, okay, I'm going to put my business on autopilot and really do this and really take care of me probably holistically, and that's WHOLE, for the first time in my entire life.
That's awesome. Yeah, my husband recently got a better job too, and I've always been very independent about money. Like I pay for my stuff, you pay for your stuff. We're very
Same, same.
separate.
Yeah.
Um, we don't have bank accounts together. Like everything is separate.
Yeah.
We pay for stuff 50-50, but it's like it's a system that I have worked out that works very well for us.
Love it.
Um, but when he got this better job, he's like, I can help you more now, like the not wanting to pick up Thursday stuff. And that to me, I was like, are you sure? Like, make sure
It
you're
takes
sure.
a bit, right? And get that
Yeah.
trust. It's that trust of like, are you doing this because you want to? Or like, I don't want to feel like a mooch. Like, oh,
I just
it's
I actually don't care about being a mooch. In my mind, he doesn't he's very he just is like here and he doesn't really have
yeah,
like he doesn't think about how much he has or how much. I'm like, we have to go over your budget now, we have to go over what you make now, so you can
yeah,
make sure you cover yourself
yep.
before you're like, here you go, because he won't think about it, he'll just be like, here you go, because he's just a very
You and I are
generous
very similar, and your husband and my
generator.
partner are very similar.
And I'm like, hold on, like get it all straight, and then I will take what is ever left over if there's any, if not, it's cool. But
Yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
it's uncomfortable because then you feel
It is.
like you owe them. But then I'm also like, hey, we've been married for 10 years. There's been times when I helped him out financially. And so now
Yeah,
he's just helping me out. So it's easier and I'm actually kind of liking it
love
now when
it.
he's like, here you go. Um, but I also want to make sure we like, because I call him my caveman because he is spleen, heart, sacral. That's all he's got. He's a two
Mm.
four. And so he very
Ooh,
much just does his own thing and doesn't really worry. He's got like this confidence. I feel like you two, gives like a weird confidence energy to where I think this is part of the natural part of where stuff comes to you naturally and everybody's like, how are you
yeah,
doing this? How are you doing this? And you're like, I don't know, I'm
yeah.
just doing it. It's like a confidence thing that allows that ease of, I don't know, I'm just doing it. Look how great I am. And everybody's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's a confidence in yourself that I don't know if they're even aware of. I don't even know if he's aware of it, but I feel it from him. I'm like,
Mm.
you just know that this is going to work out. He's like, well, yeah, it always works out. And I'm like, where does this come from? And I really feel like it's either just the two or a 2-4 combo that's like, hey, we got it. And
Yeah.
me, I'm over here, I'm like, do we got it? Have you checked all the lists to make sure we got
I
it? Like,
think it's definitely a combination of the 2 4, because I would say for me, what strengthens my connection to the line 2 is my line 6. The fact that, again, being a role model, I am a
mhm.
late bloomer. I know that my shit's gonna get fluid even more after the age of 50.
Ugh,
And that was
wait.
such a release for me because I gave because I gave myself so much stress. Again, that independent, like I have to prove myself, right? Because I'm open as fuck. And so I was reacting from
The
a
open
people
heart
space.
man is like, show people what you can
Right. And then
do.
the open throat. I was like, I need to be seen. I need to be heard. I need to be recognized. Ah. And it was those things that caught me of like, why do I do that? Oh, that's why. Okay, well, what's the other way to do things, right? What's the other
Mhm.
side of the coin? And when I saw my role model, after pressuring myself to accomplish, $1 million by 30 and X amount by 40,
Ugh.
and then I saw 50.
Goals.
Yeah. I was like, well, okay. Would I have made different decisions if I had that information before? I don't know because I was a completely different person then. However, the information came to me and it settled what it needed to. And it allowed me to release or start to release a lot of that guilt of why aren't I there yet? Why aren't I
Mhm.
here yet? To
Mm.
where it's like, no, I have a fixed destiny. I know the premise of what it is thanks to my incarnation cross. And I then can be restful and be fluid and be all these things because of how I am designed to bring it to me. And again, I didn't wake up the next day completely understanding that and implementing it
Mhm.
and making it all sunshine and roses. But it does, and but it did and does still to this day give me that going back point of like, I
Mhm.
know this to be true. So
Yeah.
take a deep breath, do what you need to do, take care of you, master what you want to master as you're waiting for this invitation. There you go. And it is. It's
Mhm.
a it's an underlying confidence that I do think people around us, for those of us who are, especially your husband 2-4 and me 6'2", can just feel. And as a
Mhm.
projector, people feel me anyway. But it
Yeah.
is that like
It's
that it is that
cool.
calm in that storm, right?
Yeah. It's at first I was well, I'm still get a little jealous, but at first I was like, how the fuck are you doing this? And then I was like, oh, after I found out human design, because I found human design after we'd already been together for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is how you're doing it. And I explained it to him and he doesn't, he's like, cool. He's very,
Yeah, my partner's the
very,
same way.
very supportive of what I do. He cheers on the
Same.
podcast. He puts it together for me. He does all my technological stuff. But when I
Love
tell
it.
him about design, he's just like,
Yeah.
neat. And I
I
think it's
know.
a very 2-4 generator response. He doesn't need me to tell him
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
a lot of times I feel like generators, I mean, we're in a generator world, so some of
Mhm.
this stuff you don't really, you feel like you know. Projectors come into the human design space. I think a lot of them doing exactly what you did and what I did of like, I knew it. I knew there was something, and now you're
Yeah.
validating it for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I think a
Yeah.
lot of not just projectors, but a lot of non-sacrals see that happens to them because they're like, oh, because the
Yeah.
sacral center runs the world and we're not a part of it.
Well, not
So
until
what now?
2027 when things shift and we've got the solar plexus mutation and hello,
I don't even
projectors
know. I
are
don't even know
a
what's
bit of
happening
the
there. That's above my
But
I go
I was gonna
ahead.
say I get the same from my Gen clients of like the fact that they try to embrace their generator side so much more than their manifestor side and that
Mhm.
niching down and that you have to focus like the checklist and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And when I show them how niching down is not the through line is you, not your ideal client, right? And those
Yeah.
other ways that they can embrace their quote unquote flibberty gibbet energy and that
Yeah.
it is profitable. The the deep breaths that I get when they hear that, because they're like, I knew that, but every time I would tell my coach or the group that I'm in or try
Like,
to do this course, it never stuck. And now I know why. And when I see generators, sometimes I do get the, oh, I'm just a generator.
oh
But then I
yeah.
say, hey, we need you. Like, if we were left to our own devices, shit would take years,
Yeah, yeah.
centuries to
That's why I
finish.
love to get to people who don't know anything about human design because
Yeah.
I don't tell them that generators are the most common type. It doesn't make them not, just like you said, it doesn't mean anything. Each person, each
Right.
individual is so special and highly
Absolutely.
specific that I can look at
Yeah.
your chart and point out 10 things that I think are awesome in 2
Mm.
seconds.
Yep.
And generator would be at the top of the list because
Yeah.
I am jealous as fuck of you guys. You have the energy to do life. You have this
Yeah.
thing that kind of keeps you moving along. You can
Yeah.
still get burnout. You can still get tired. We get it. You still need naps. You still need all the things because you're here to do what lights you up. And to
Yeah.
me, the generator, like using your
Stair step.
sacral
Yeah.
and responding to life, to me, that sounds easier than
Mm.
what a lot of the projector types have to go through depending on their authority.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
know that I don't know because I'm not a generator, so it might not
Right.
be easier, it might be harder, or it might be the same or whatever.
Yeah.
different all the time. But to me, it feels like you got some steps. And
Right.
I'm a mental projector with innocence motivation, and I get no steps. I
Yeah.
just get nothing. And they get something. And
Yeah,
that's
that
where
is.
like the jealousy part comes from. But it's not,
Yeah.
I like that I'm a projector and I love being a mental projector, but sometimes, like you said, you can look at other types and be like, oh, this is neat about you. This is neat about you. This is neat.
Yeah.
And generators, the big main neat is that you have sacral center defined. Even though there's 70% of you walking around, like you said, we need you. We need you.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah,
you so badly. Like a lot of times when we're trying to do stuff, me and my friend Rebecca, who's another mental projector, she's like, we need a generator in this, like in around
Right.
us or doing something because we can't get anything. We have so many ideas. We're both
Yeah.
1156. We just can't get anything out. So yeah, generators, we need you, or else it's hard for us to put things out into the world.
Yeah.
Get
And
things
that's
done.
another thing why you mentioned this earlier about how each person really is special in their own way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I love that when people do choose to understand their human design in whatever capacity that is, they can see what their cog actually is
Mhm,
instead of, or their puzzle piece or whatever, instead of just thinking, oh, I'm just this person or I'm just doing this. It's
mm,
how really we work together as a collective. And when you have, especially, I just did a reading with a generator yesterday morning, and I said, the beautiful thing about generators is yes, we need you for more of the structure, the energy, and all of that. But you are not the initiation, right? Your
mhm,
manifestors usually are. You're the follow through. I'm an invitation. So I need you two or you three, Manny Gens, to work your magic in order for me to really fully do what I need to do or I
mhm,
want to do. And vice
mhm,
versa. We take up the crosses when our energetic boundaries are done. There's that next type
mhm.
to take it to that next level or take it over.
Yeah.
And I think the more that people, even from just a energetic standpoint, can understand how they fit in a situation, how they fit in a plan, and how each other communicates and all of that, the more this is really, again, as we move into the solar plexus mutation 2027, into more of that collaboration, that collective energy,
Mhm,
and less of that structured, dictator, patriarchal, systematic stuff that we needed back in the day. But now
mhm.
we've got a little bit too far. And it's time to kind of go back
Reel it
to,
in.
yeah, let's just reel it in a little bit and understand and appreciate the individual as well as how that individualism attributes to or contributes to the collective.
Mhm. Yes. We need each other, man. We all
We
need each
do.
other.
Yep.
All right, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, how you can help them or guide them or facilitate, whatever word you want to use.
Sure. So the best places to, I say, respectfully stalk me. I am on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Mel McSherry. I'm also on Instagram at Mel_McSherry. You can check out how I utilize human design on my website, melmcsherry.com. And if you do want to, quote unquote, pick my brain or get more information or just spend more time with me, please feel free to schedule a virtual coffee with me at virtualcoffeewithmel.com.
I need to get that because I know I don't have anything for people to talk to me. I just assume they hear my voice on the podcast or wherever else I talk and they're sick of it. So they know what I sound like and maybe we'll energetically connect. But I've never offered like a one-on-one. So I like that. So I
And I
like
like the
that.
virtual coffee because it's not a consultation because
Yeah,
I'm not
that's a
here to
weird
consult
word.
any. I'm here to get to know you, you get to know me and see what, if any, are the next steps.
Mhm. Maybe I'm gonna get one of those. Thank you for helping me. See, she already helped me.
Ta-da!
And if you're interested in working with me, JanelleTurner.net, I do a human design plus support, which is 3-session package. And if you live locally to Denver, I also do human design party time where we can have a party and talk about human design with you and your friends, and it's really fun.
Ooh.
And Donald, if you're listening, I just talked about myself and promoted myself, and that was because of you at our meeting. So thank you, Donald. Don't forget, go to magicmind.com, find a link in the description to get your discount and do the 7-day challenge with me. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Mel. I loved it, and I hope that you'll come on again. because we had fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. Any damn day.
All right, cool. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.